I've got one relative who I really, really love. On their new job, their boss said to them, so, insert name here, what are your growth aspirations for the next 2 or 3 years? And guess what they said?
I don't have any.
No, they said, well, before I share you mine, I want to know yours.
Oh, that's good.
Because my goal is to get your job in the next 18 months. So I want to know what your growth agenda is so you can get on out of here.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm going for. I'm going for your job.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In each episode, we talk about something we can spark in work and life. From how to spark culture, to how to spark progression, to how to spark our office plants, so that they are the sign of life, the symbol for growth that they should be, and not just a dying symbol of death in the corner.
Oh, believe me, those plants are flourishing.
That's great.
I actually even went out today and bought one of those pump-up sprayers.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, because you know how much I hate outsourcing to like other people when we can do it
Yes.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So we've now got a head of botany at Interactive Workshops,
Oh,
and
that's good.
I saw them spraying. They were so happy with the sprayer, and then they're out there with their 8 litres just spraying the plants when they could be doing work, but having a great time doing it.
And to be fair, if the plants are alive, a symbol for growth, that's what we're going to be talking about on this episode. Growth.
Chris, and I've got to say that this is such an important topic that I'm not going to mess around.
That's good.
Because normally, you know how excited I get. I'm going to
We're
channel.
going to keep this very
This
professional.
is serious.
Very serious.
My favourite cyclist, Peter Sagan, the Slovenian mountain biker and road cyclist, he has a whole brand dedicated to why is so serious. But I can tell you for why, Peter, it's because this is a serious subject. Growth. How to spark growth.
Growth. Very serious. We'll keep it very serious for the whole
Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. And just clarify, how to spark growth, not how to spark a growth.
And not gross either.
And not gross. No.
Growth.
We don't want to spark gross.
Growth.
Growth. We're going to talk about not just plants and how we can grow those and tend to those, but how we can tend to ourselves and help each other grow. Firstly, Jonna, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Chris. How am I? I'm really well, thank you, Chris. How are you?
How did you know
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that question?
Because that's an important part of the show is working out how we are. And how are you guys? How are you? You can also write it in the comments below if you're on a popular video platform.
Or share a reply if you're on a podcast
Or
platform.
you can call us and we'll just talk to you because we like that.
Yeah, we love that.
Got our mobile numbers on the website. Just
Yeah.
text me.
Drop us a message.
Me and my mate James Corden. James, just drop us a text, yeah?
So growth, is it just a buzzword?
Yes.
Okay, let's start there.
I've already failed to take this really seriously.
Yeah,
This is so serious. Anyway, growth. I think before we talk about what we do, learning and development type growth,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
interpersonal growth,
Yeah. Because we could go there.
we could go, but I love to start with the macroeconomics of work, because this is a work podcast, and the economics of work is fundamentally important. And I've got from the Bank of England website, and I like reading from websites,
Yeah. Don't read the URL. We'll take
article-
your word for it.
entitled, Why Does Economic Growth Matter?
Important question.
It's an important question, and economic growth does matter because if our economies aren't growing, then our tax receipts are shrinking.
Mm.
And if our tax receipts are shrinking, then our public services, assuming a stable population, our public services are getting better or worse, Chris?
They're getting worse.
Worse. And if they
Yeah.
get worse, we need more of what to make them better again? Money.
Money, yeah.
But if we're not growing, we're paying less taxes, so then they get even
Right.
worse.
Yep.
So if companies and organizations don't have a growth agenda, then they and the economy and society suffer.
Wow.
And we're not here to promote suffering
No.
unless it's in cycling, which is suffering is part of cycling.
I see why you're taking this very seriously.
It's incredibly serious.
Yeah.
And can I get a little bit political for a moment? Just a little bit.
Go on. Go a little bit. Yeah.
A tiny, tiny bit. But we hear actually a lot in not just the UK, but a lot of countries around the world. Governments must do more. Governments must do more. Public services aren't good enough. There's a crisis here. There's a crisis there. There's a crisis there. Imagine if we had a lot more money. we'd be able to solve a lot more problems. But unless we have the economic growth, then we can't solve all of society's problems. And in fact, because we kind of hope life gets better, and because services, we hope they improve, we become more and more disappointed. So we fundamentally need economic growth. And this is where I, as an individual, like to ask, not what should others do, but what can I do to create growth? Not what can governments do to make better public services, and it's not party political, but not what should other people do to try and make my life better or improve society, but what can I do to create a better society?
What can you spark?
I need to spark growth. If I can spark growth, then I'm contributing, not just me, but you and all of us. If we can spark growth, then we are contributing to the collective success, not just of our own little town or area or our company, but of everybody.
Of the economy.
But that also, I mean, that's even if you think the charity sectors, they get their monies from people's surplus that they give to them. So all government, charity, all the do-gooding and business is all sparked by growth. We could end the podcast. This is so serious, Chris. It could be a party political broadcast for the growth party, but there isn't one.
There isn't one.
There's no growth party.
So we could just talk about how to grow.
Yeah, well, this is what we're talking about today.
And maybe we can start with, we've covered the wider picture. Could we drill down into your part in it, as you described? How are you growing?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, thank you for asking. Well, it is a challenging season. It is a challenging season. Our company has grown by probably 100% in 2 years across everything. People, clients, revenue, offices, countries. I absolutely love it, and it's fully intentional. And that is how growth, I think, is really sparked. There's perhaps accidental growth, but to really spark growth is to think, what do you want to bring to the world? What can you contribute? What would you like to progress in? And then how can I develop? How can I grow my skill set, my capacity? How can I grow my... you can't stretch yourself further if you don't grow in resilience. How can you become able to endure more, able to hold more? How can you be able to do more? So that's the personal investment that goes alongside that is a personal growth journey. And I would say that I'm challenged constantly to grow. And the great thing in this team is also the people around me are growing. So it's also a little bit of a race, Chris.
Right.
Which
You're
is
trying to stay ahead.
If I don't grow fast enough...
Yeah, or catch up.
or catch up. Yeah. I mean, imagine if you're in a high-growing team. And actually, we work with businesses like this. We work with startups and scale-ups. It's growing very fast. If the leaders of those teams don't grow fast enough, they become redundant. And I actually have got a friend who is a coach that is specifically helps people who haven't grown fast enough exit executive organisations. Shout out to Nigel.
Shout out to Nigel.
But it's an
important job.
There's an industry for it. There's an industry for it.
Yeah.
If you don't grow fast enough, it's very common also with founder-led businesses. Founder and two co-founders, there's three of you. The business grows and grows. Only one of you is really growing fast enough. And the other one who was, I've got an example, like ops manager becomes ops director. And then the VC is saying like they're not an ops director. They're at best an ops manager. Yeah. And they're not. They can't be on the board. They can't. Let's just buy them out and get rid of them because we need someone who's growing fast enough to grow with our organisation. Yeah. So very, very serious, Chris. This is life and death.
It's really serious. Yeah. Wow.
How are you growing?
How am I growing? Well, I've grown with the company.
I thought you were going to say I've grown like...
I've grown a little bit in terms of muscle mass, but there's still a way to go there. No, I've grown with the company as we've journeyed over the past 5 years. Grown a lot in a lot of different areas. And I like the phrase accidental growth. Some of it's accidental.
Much of it.
Some of it's passive in a way. And then some of it's proactive. Some of it's, can I stretch myself and do that? I do a lot of introspective thinking. I reflect a lot.
Do you really do that?
Yeah.
I can't see that, so I didn't really realise.
But yeah, I think about the way I'm growing.
Yeah, how are you growing, Chris?
I'm growing in facilitation, growing in learning design, growing in team leadership, growing in a number of areas. And as I say, some of that just by experience, by a bit of osmosis, I guess. And then in other ways, proactively trying to stretch myself. Can I go and do that? Can I go and run that? Can I make that happen? And
can I handle this situation myself?
yeah,
Yeah?
exactly.
I
Yeah.
had a lot of those.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, isn't it? And work can, I was going to say should be, but could be a tapestry. It could be a chemistry lab of exciting experiments where you're having to work out what to do.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about a high challenge, high support environment. But if you're in a high support environment and you've got high challenge, you have the seeds for growth. A bit like your plant, it needs both soil, water, and light. And if you don't have all the right ingredients, then the plant may not grow. But what I absolutely love about the seed is that from that seed, from one seed with a bit of light, soil and water, from one seed can grow an oak tree. How many acorns in a season from a fully grown oak tree, Chris? It's massive, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's going to be
I don't know.
thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
Imagine the potential in each of those acorns if you planted all of those. I mean, within a couple of generations, you could have 1 million trees because those acorns are coming every year. So human beings are like that. We've got growth potential. We are, in fact, just like that acorn. No one has to tell us when we're a baby how to grow. They just feed us and we just get bigger.
Yeah.
And then we assimilate things. But at some point, we start doing that self-reflection about where we can grow and how we can grow. Probably when we stop growing like this, we start trying to think about how we can grow like this.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental part of what being great at work is and what having a very meaningful work journey is about.
Yeah, and you can see how it sits alongside some of the other topics we talked about: culture, motivation, teamwork, all of those things interplay in terms of my growth. My growth is dependent on other people, dependent on having a team behind me, dependent on a number of factors, the culture that I'm a part of that stimulates me to grow, enables me to grow, empowers me to grow.
Fundamental.
Yeah.
And there's a question also, isn't there, if you're managing a team, can you demonstrate to that team that you're growing? And if I've got one relative who I really, really love, they're very ambitious, and their boss, on their new job, their boss said to them, so, insert name here, what are your growth aspirations for the next 2 or 3 years? And guess what they said?
I don't have any.
No, they said, well, before I share you mine, I want to know yours.
Oh, that's a good.
Because my goal is to get your job in the next 18 months. So I want to know what your growth agenda is, so you can get on out of here.
Yeah,
because that's what I'm going for. I'm going for your job. I mean, that's
a bold approach.
That's quite a bold.
Yeah.
Can we say ballsy? Is that
maybe
that might be an inappropriate use of.
I prefer to not use male genitalia as a term for that
probably
kind of thing.
Not right, is it? Yeah. But you know, there's that's what companies are there. We're trying to grow. We're trying to grow, and you've got to create the right conditions. Can we get a bit sciencey?
Yeah, let's get a bit sciencey. Tell me about some of the science behind why we grow.
It's funny that you mentioned that, but one of my favourite things that I've come up with in the whole time I've been in learning and development is I started to research the Gallup Q12, which is the Gallup company's employee engagement 12 questions. It's a verified, and millions of people have taken the employee engagement test and take them every year. And they basically got 4 levels, and they ask the questions, you know, have you got the equipment you need to get your job done, for example, which is at the bottom level. That's just a foundation, it's a basic.
Right.
Then there's some things about you on an individual level. Do you know what you've got to do each day? Are you good at what you do? Do you get to do the questions? I get to do the things I'm best at every day? That's, for example, me as an individual.
Yeah.
Then there's questions that are about my colleagues are committed to high quality work, which is about teamwork. So you've got basic, individual, team. And then the very top of that pyramid, can you guess what that category is, Christoph?
Higher than teamwork.
Higher than teamwork.
The collective, the company?
No, it's growth.
Growth.
Yeah.
Wow. And
then if you think about that, that's so the absolute pinnacle of employee engagement, people are growing. And I think that should make you laugh. Because isn't that a basic for us?
Such a surprise for a learning and development agency.
I mean, I can't imagine going to work. Actually, I can imagine it because I get really bored. If I'm not growing, I am really bored.
If you're not growing, you're going.
For some people, yeah. But the transaction of work, we come to work, we put things in. What do we get out of it? We get out money, social system, stimulation, challenge. But the most engaged organisations, people are getting growth. They come in, let's say that a bit like a football club, they come in for a £3 million transfer fee, and when they leave, they're 100 million transfer fee. They come in at 3 million wage transfer fee with a wage of 10,000 a week. They leave, they're 50,000 a week. They have got a lot out of being in that company. Equally, if the company itself grows, hopefully they don't leave. And they've become much, much better. So instead of running a small unit or a small client or a small team or a small manufacturing centre or a small country, after a few short years, they're running a massive country. So the emotional and life payoffs from growth for individuals are really high.
That's huge. So we've got that basic level stuff everybody needs to work.
Yeah.
That individual level.
Yeah.
What stimulates you as a person? Are you doing the stuff you love?
Are you doing what you're good at?
Yeah, doing what you're good at. Then the teamwork. How do you play within the organisation? And then right at the top, growth.
Are you growing? Are you progressing?
Yeah.
Are
you developing?
In the individual one, actually, there's a question about someone cares about my progression and development. So that's just in individuals and teamworks. But am I actually growing and progressing is
right.
The top driver of employee engagement.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
It's fun, isn't it? Also, because I don't think setting up an environment where people can grow is that difficult. If it was, nurseries, schools, universities, our homes. I'm a parent. I'm untrained. I'm uneducated and unqualified to do that job. Yet my children have gone from not being able to change their own pants. They speak French and German. You know?
Yeah.
So it can't be that hard. I mean, my son can kick a football. And he came in the other day and said, Dad, I've just spent the whole afternoon practicing left-footed free kicks. Have a look at this. He top binsed it with his left foot. He's only 13.
Well, maybe the school system and the football clubs have helped a little bit in some trained way. But yeah, I see your point.
There's lots
you were completely unqualified to be a parent. So am I.
Yeah.
Never did a course.
No.
Never did a degree.
You could do a course, but
could do a course, but didn't.
No.
Child surviving.
Just
so far.
On cereal.
On cereal.
But this is the point. Like you could almost say that we're primed for growth, and I guess maybe that's also what happens is whether through expectation or limited opportunities for many people, then the motivation or the possibility isn't there. But then we end up in our life like that economic situation we started at, where we haven't got this chance of progression. And then we've got this horrible feeling where our costs are going up, but we're not getting a pay rise and we're not getting a new job. So we have to settle for where we're at. And then we stagnate.
Can you talk to me about 5 years ago, interactive workshops, much smaller than it is now, as you've talked about, even in the past couple of years, has grown dramatically. 5 years ago, very small.
Oh, thanks, Chris. That took me ages to build that very small company.
Compared to where it is now. But you, I think, decided to go on a growth journey. Could you tell me about that?
Well, I did decide. I made a decision, yeah. And I also think it was a natural decision because I believe in this. I believe in the S-curves. I believe that if you don't get onto your next S-curve, you will go downhill. And I'd been running interactive workshops. In 2017, I'd been doing it for 10 years at least. And I got to a point, I thought I've done all this before. I'm just going round and round. The company had grown, it had probably grown 10 times in 10 years. So from year 1 to year 10, which isn't particularly fast, but I wasn't trying to grow it fast then. And I was floundering around without motivation. And so I went to see 12 mentors to ask people who have been significant to me, to ask me, what do you think I should do as a slightly middle-aged man who's kind of a bit bored? One of them said, you should go on a silent retreat for 2 weeks and then you'll know what to do. One of them said, you should just sell the company and leave. But one of them said, you're probably doing what you're already enjoying, what you're good at. It's just not hard enough. It's become too easy and therefore you've become bored. And that person was the one I listened to the most. I didn't go on the retreat. I didn't sell the company. But I decided to make it harder. And to do that, I decided to create a growth plan. And off we went. So yeah. So that's how we got started. And we've grown by, I think, 4 times over those years, 5 years, including times of COVID, which wasn't particularly growth friendly in one way, but made us completely change our products and service offering in another. Turns out, even recessions are good for growth.
Yeah.
You know?
You can grow through it.
Yeah, well, recessions kill off unprofitable parts of companies or companies. They obviously can wreak havoc. But a bit like if you're on the farm and there's a drought, the crops that aren't that resilient die off. So it's a little bit of natural selection, and it made us focus on the best profit lines and people to grow the company in the future. Glad you're still here, Chris.
Still here.
It's definitely
Not been pruned.
massive growth driver.
And thinking about the clients that we work with and the way they're growing, sometimes in tandem, in close contact with us. Where have you seen clients growing really well?
Well, there's a complete polarity, two different types of companies that are out there. One is a high growth company, but most companies are aiming for sustainable growth. They don't want to grow too fast because they'll end up in boom and bust. So most companies are looking for a consistent growth over a number of years in the maximums of 10, 15, maybe 20%, but probably not more than that. And they just want, like if you're a PLC, you just want a sustainable growth track. There are other companies with a hockey stick type companies, and they're looking for a very rapid, not even just tens of percents, but maybe hundreds. And the two different types of organizations have completely different sets of goals. The PLC, I think, do invest a lot in people and are interested in developing people over the course of their career. One example of that, Savills, for example, one of the most amazing companies in terms of how it operates. It's truly entrepreneurial, full of the most wide spectrum of people who are able to be entrepreneurial. But they, for example, they want steady growth. And as an example, in the pandemic, they didn't hold back on learning and development because they said, we've done this before in previous recessions. And then 3 or 4 years later, we didn't have enough senior leaders in our organization. We didn't have enough associate directors. So we need to keep going with our graduate recruitment and our training. We're going to keep going because this group of people that we recruit and train now, it's for the future. So I think the kind of bigger organizations, the PLCs, they understand that growth part, and they put a lot of systems and processes in place, sometimes bureaucratic, but they're putting in place and investing, like they might in marketing or anything else, in those people. And I think the fast growth companies, in my opinion, the journey that they're on is so challenging that people are growing through that journey anyway. And in that case, we're perhaps more there to support that journey. Imagine if you're hired in on like year 1 and it's just you and 5 others, but in year 10 year 2 you've got a team of 10, and then in year 3 you've got a team of 100. That journey in itself is so stretching that in those cases we work more with either the whole organization or the whole team to try and go on that journey rather than through courses and like official programs like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting, seeing the client perspective. What about for us, if we want to grow then? An individual wanting to grow, wanting to stretch themselves, maybe they work for somewhere that isn't stretching them as much as they want to be. How can we take that responsibility to grow?
It's such a good question. Taking the responsibility is the key. Whose responsibility is it? Coming back to our economic question, is it the government's responsibility to help grow the economy, or does it fall to the people who work to grow the economy? A bit of both, probably. But yeah, I think that if you want to grow, it starts with that intention. And you could then ask yourself, as you said, you do some reflection. What do I want to grow in? I do some coaching work, Chris. I ask people, what would you like to grow in? What would you like to improve at? How could you be a bigger person? How could you stretch yourself? What would be a fresh challenge for you? Where would you like to end up in your career? I'd like to ask people, when you're 65 and you've retired, or if you're now 67, when you look back, what are the things that you want to have done? What are the opportunities that you could have taken? We face those sliding doors moments. A pay rise, a promotion, a new challenge, a project. You went to America. So I say to you, Chris, would you be interested in going to help start up our American office? What did you think? You've got a young child at home. You've got a family. What do you think?
Growth opportunity.
Yeah. So we can say yes or no. Something stretching. We can say yes or no to those. And if we assimilate as many of those as possible, then we can grow. And we've talked about this in our early careers podcast as well. The other thing is obviously companies can structure programs that challenge people, especially early careers, to get those experiences in early, get the rotations going, get the international rotations going across division, different places, get that going early. That can really stimulate you to have a wide variety of experiences and need the skills. And when you need the skills, you're open to learning, you want to go on the courses. So it's a kind of a symbiotic impact that if you can get that happening, you get the growth. And then all you have to do as an organization is make sure you've grown fast enough that they're still happy to work there because they can still be stretched.
There we go. In a sense, a bit of a byproduct growth. Intentional, but also seems to be produced by the environment and the things that we are proactive in doing.
A byproduct? Is it a byproduct? It can be a byproduct, can't it? It can be an accidental consequence, unintended consequence.
Yeah, you mentioned accidental.
But I think it's more important than being a byproduct. I think, again, if you think about why does a company grow, it doesn't grow by accident. It grows because some people or somebody is saying, we are $1 billion revenue this year. We're going to be 1.1 next year. If you ask down the organisation, they may also say, well, it's going to be a really challenging market next year, and our product launch isn't till the year after. So we did $1 billion, but I think about $1 billion again. I think that's the difference. I think some people up there know that they have to set that agenda for more and bigger. Otherwise, the generic worker in general will try and just keep doing what they're doing.
And then not growing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very big generalisation because there's a lot of people that aren't like that. But I think on average, organisations without a deliberate growth agenda will probably flatline or stagnate.
And for you, who's someone who is helping people grow as your profession and with your company helping people grow, what do you want to grow in?
Well, I'm having to grow in experience of what it means to run a business. I was quite a good facilitator. I think I was good at that.
Very good.
Good in learning design. Good at that. And then good in working with my mates to run a small company. And then I'm not very good in process management and executive leadership. In fact, I'm quite an entrepreneurial style. Can you think why I have a problem with enterprise level executive leadership? What am I not very good at, Chris? You can tell me, it's fine.
Yeah, maybe getting into the detail of it.
And the process.
The process.
Love coming
doing
up with
things properly, maybe.
Yeah. Love coming up with the process.
Yeah.
But I also actually find it hard to hold people to account somehow. It can be hard to say to people that you're close to or that you work with, you said you were going to do X, and you've taken the responsibility for it. If it's not done, what do you do?
Yeah. That's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. What would you do?
Got to have the conversation in the right way, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can't really avoid it, else things fall down.
I'm a people pleaser, like you mentioned before. And I see it as a positive. I want to make people happy.
People pleaser. Yeah.
But I think that's the hard. So the harder thing of executive leadership, which I'm trying to grow in at the moment, is perhaps having a little bit of those boundaries in place. Perhaps being more structured and definitely holding senior people to account. I'm used to holding junior people to account, saying, Jimmy, you said you'd get this to me yesterday. Where is it? Oh, it's an hour late. Let's have it. But I think holding senior people to account, whole different ball game, more political, more challenging, and also just requires the composure and I also need to follow the process. So if I didn't do that, why would I expect them to? So it requires me to be more measured, and I find that really difficult.
And occasionally maybe comes at a price of being flexible or relaxed, showing a bit of grace.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to hold those in tandem.
Yeah. So sometimes when you're stepping into a new role, in those transitions, there's a cost. There's a cost that comes with the opportunity, and sometimes I don't want to pay the price. Sometimes I still want to be matey.
Yeah.
What about you? How are you growing, Chris?
I'm growing, I think, in trying to be able to handle multiple leadership responsibilities. I think I've had various different hats, and now it's, can I interchange those hats? Maybe not multitask, but be able to wear those different hats and be more of a public leader than just a private one-to-one team leader.
So you've had those kind of functional responsibilities and smaller teams, and then as you've got a bigger remit, you've got to grow as a public leader. Yeah. And have you noticed that you may not know all the details of what's going on?
And
it's harder to hold people to account. Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
We can agree on that.
Yeah. Maybe we can coach each other.
Turns out those CEOs in those stuffy boardrooms, it might be more difficult than we think.
Yeah, maybe it is.
And they're trying to drive this growth that we're talking about. They're trying to set up those conditions for their organisations to grow.
Yeah. And then is it best to have personal growth or professional growth? I don't know if is that a distinction we need to make?
I think I'm quite an integrationist in those areas. I can see how you can easily split them out.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you could also say my work's too big a part of my entire life.
Yeah.
But I do think that you can look at different areas like, I don't know, your finances, for example. Are you growing in how you manage your finances? Are you becoming clever? Are you Are you taking more risk? Are you being bolder? Again, exercise life. That's a cycle, not a pedal cycle, but it's a
Yeah.
But are you getting more skillful? Like I'm like so when I got into running, I read every book, including like textbooks on running and textbooks on hydration.
Posture you should maintain.
When I got into poker, I read 100 poker books. So like whatever your hobbies and areas of interest are you growing in those? Or are you just at the level that you've always been doing things the way you've always done? Sometimes actually when I'm out riding my bike, I see people that are very obviously still just as happy riding their bike in exactly the same clothes, the same bike as they were 20 years ago, and they're just very happy. But I'm also interested in, and I think that's very good. But I'm thinking that's an area where I want to grow. I want to get a better cyclist. I want to experience more, see more, do more.
Yeah. There's some things that we maybe want to be consistent in, but other things where actually we could push, even if it's something just that's a hobby.
Yeah, but also as a point of interest to go and learn the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm an integrationist as well.
Are you? What are you learning at the moment, Chris?
One of the things recently was around habits and how we build good habits, which is something that...
Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits. I read that book. Yeah. I didn't read 100 books, but that is one I did read. And yeah, thinking about how to build good habits, get rid of bad ones, that's something that does affect all of life. Because there's bad habits you have at work. There's bad habits you have
you say you've managed to give up being a murderer?
It didn't actually cover that specifically.
Habits,
so,
what's your bad habits, Chris?
Oh, well, I'm not going to go into all of those on the podcast, but there's many.
Just one.
Forgetting to bring the bins back in.
You left your bins out?
Always doing that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It annoys the neighbours.
Yeah, you got to bring the bins in.
Yeah. There you go. There's one. I'll give you that little nugget for free. Jonna, before we finish the podcast, tell me more about how we're helping teams grow.
I'd like to just talk about organisations, if that's okay.
Talk about organisations.
Your organisation will grow if you have a brilliant learning and development department. And your learning and development department will be effective if it has brilliant partners. And I can unashamedly boast that we are an excellent learning and development partner. We have an absolutely unbelievable team here that, as we're here podcasting, are out there, some of them in France, Germany, London and New York today, running leadership programs, project management training, team buildings. And then we have another incredible team in here of people. You know, you read that book. Have you ever been on a thing called YouTube?
It's all there.
Yeah. Have you ever watched a TikTok?
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at an infographic?
Yeah.
Ever taken an e-learning?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all those other media we're building, and part of our specialism is we have the most incredible visual creative team. So not only is the content phenomenal, but it looks shiny, sparkling. It sparkles.
Yeah.
It's full of sparks.
Shimmers. Sparks.
So that's what we're doing, and we are, I would say, an excellent learning and development partner. And one of our clients recently said to us that if my other vendors can't get to your level, they will all go out of business. Now, I hope they don't go out of business.
No, not for the economy.
That was a very, very nice thing to hear.
Yeah.
That he thought, compared to a lot of other vendors, our team is unbelievable good.
That's great, isn't it?
I can boast, not in myself, but the work that this group of people does is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, Jonna, thank you very much for joining me for this podcast. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute dream.
Let's grow.
Let's do it, Chris.
Thanks for watching this video by Interactive Workshops. Give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Click through to here or here to watch another video by Interactive Workshops.